Retro Mondays.
Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome to another Retro Monday, where the goal of this show is to turn your Monday into a fun day. Keeping up with the Batman theme, we are re-examining a beat-em-up Batman game, which is a sequel to 2001's Batman Vengeance, based on the new Batman Adventures animated series spin-off. Now, what made this game different than its predecessor was the abandonment of the previous action-adventure elements, and of course the inclusion of other playable heroes, namely Nightwing, Batgirl, and Robin, Tim Drake. As you recall from the past videos and my lore stuff, Nightwing had left after the incident in Old Wounds, where Bruce didn't apologize for knowing that Dick's girlfriend was Batgirl. Instead, he replies coldly with this.
It wasn't my place to tell you.
But it was your place to put her in danger.
It wasn't like that. I volunteered.
You think you did. You don't know him like I do. He manipulates, pulls strings, anything to get what he wants.
I thought we had the same goals.
Things change. I changed. The game's over, Batman. I quit.
Robin's reaction is, of course, well, this, and he quits. This then sets up the continuity we have in Batman Vengeance and his new sidekick, Batgirl. Now, the game's story doesn't do anything to tie up any loose ends from the last game either. Actually, it does the complete opposite, and it sets up this Batman adventure as a solo one, meaning that Nightwing and Company's edition was just added fan service and that's it. Bob Hastings' Commissioner Gordon has a more active role this time around and replaces Batgirl as Batman, Kevin Conroy's sidekick during this game. Okay, so the main story goes like this. Batman arrives in Crime Alley to pay his respects to his family, as he does every year, when all of a sudden a massive breakout occurs at both Blackgate Prison and Arkham Asylum. Meanwhile, the sinister conductor behind these events is a new villain from Japan named Shinzu, whom plans to challenge Gotham's protector and destroy the city while he's at it. This new supercriminal was created by DC Comics artist genius Jim Lee. The character actually seems to borrow a lot of elements from Bane, Black Mask, and the League of Shadows. To my knowledge, he has yet to appear in the official comics continuity, although he did appear in a year-long webcomic called Shadow of Shinzu that featured Two-Face, Catwoman, the entire Bat family, Joker, and many others. But we're moving on. In case you hadn't guessed it by the various clips, this Batman game is nothing like the previous one. This game takes a page out of the early 90s and tries to revive the old beat-em-up style. Both Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles attempted this with some minimal success during this time. Also, instead of using the more traditional side-scrolling mechanic, Batman opts for an overhead view for the action, though players can move the camera around and zoom in and out if they want to. Rise of Shinzu can also be played by yourself or with a friend. Okay, so the whole point of this game is to rescue the citizens or defuse bombs, all the while pounding dozens of goons and tangling with the likes of the Scarecrow, Clayface, and Bane upon a chapter's end. After finishing a level, depending on your score, Batman and allies can upgrade at least one ability from the collected points you earned during the level. But more on that later. Besides the main story, Shinzu features a challenge mode and various unlockable content fans of Batman are sure to enjoy. That is, if they continue to play the game long enough, that is. So, what did I have wrong with this game? Well, for starters, the game is agonizingly so repetitive. Every level is exactly the same, no lie! Seriously, you just fight a series of thugs, then save a citizen, shut off a bomb, then repeat the process several more times, and, well, you get the idea.
You smell bad and your mother dresses you funny. You're free now.
That's the game. Now, this wouldn't have been that bad of a problem if the upgrades were actually useful to the player, but they aren't. These new moves are much slower and more complex than your default ones at your disposal. Plus, enemies can defend against these new upgrades no sweat, thus making them a waste of time. Trust me, you don't want Batman to be a sitting duck while you're trying to learn these complex moves. It's just no fun whatsoever. Just stick with using your default combos because they're much faster to execute and work very well. Another issue I have with this game is the villain end bosses, which are a mixed bag. While Bane is pretty predictable and Shinzu is a bit frustrating and insane to fight, the bosses I really couldn't stand are between the Scarecrow and Clayface. Cranes was the absolute worst though in my personal opinion, because his disappearing act took way too long and was so boring. All you have to do is run around in circles punching him in midair. That's just lame. Also, going a few rounds against Clayface is a pain because of his long-range attacks. There's really no point defending against these because they're unblockable attacks and they really drain Batman's health, which make the fight very annoying. Next up, this may just be me, but I wasn't a fan of the timed levels. They just really ticked me off. My final thing wrong with this game is a big one, and it still bothers me to this day. This game has no level select whatsoever, and that is totally unacceptable after you beat the game, because it really cuts down on any replay value you might have had. Frankly, I'm just shocked that this wasn't included because the last game had it and it made the game have more lasting appeal. But I digress. Unfortunately, I could go on and on and on about this game's faults, but that's not the nature of this program. I also want you guys and gals to know that I did like this game at one point back when I was in college. But I will say this, the game did set out what it was supposed to do, and they did succeed mostly in that department. As for the graphics, Rise of Sinzu looks much better than its predecessor, so it definitely does justice to its New Adventures counterpart. Plus, you gotta love the way the environments work and how Batman is enveloped by both the shadows and smoke throughout the stages. It's pretty awesome. Still, if the challenge factor and visuals don't make you feel like The Dark Knight, hearing Kevin Conroy as Batman will.
They've all been here at one point or another. Joker, Harley, Riddler, Ivy, Two-Face, Mr. Freeze, you name them.
Besides Batman, other animated series and New Adventures alumni make a return for this game too, like Lauren Lester as Nightwing and Tara Strong as Batgirl, though Tim Drake is not voiced by Matthew Valence.
Speak of the devil.
Actually, Scott Menville took over as Robin due to Teen Titans being aired at that time.
They don't call me Robin for nothing.
As for the villains, they were once again voiced by Ron Perlman, Hector Elizondo, Jeffrey Combs, and of course this guy as Sinzu.
Your brother's soul is mine. You will be next.
Anybody else get chills by that clip? No? As for the sound effects, well, they were okay. Nothing really impressed me all that much, except for this game's music. Think of it like the animated series meets the hard rock of Batman Beyond. It was so awesome to listen to. The score was done by this guy, whose works include Top Gear, Wing Commander 2, Spider-Man, and many others. While the gameplay is nowhere near as bad as the train wreck that was Batman Dark Tomorrow, it's still not all that satisfying. At least, that's how I personally feel about it. Hit detection is spot on though, and the super moves were very easy to pull off, but none of this prevents the game from becoming tiresome really quickly, which is a dire shame, I have to say. But I do admit that the character variety was excellent. Nightwing was my absolute favorite character to play as, and he had the best balance of speed and power in the game. Also, the extra costumes were a nice bonus and got at least one more playthrough from me in this game. Though this time around, 2-player wasn't all that enjoyable for me, and to this day, I prefer to play this game solo if I can. Other cool moves have to be the Z attacks, which were very choice. From the Bat Grapple, Smoke Pellets, and Electric Batarangs were very shocking to the bad guys. Speaking of really fun gameplay mechanics though, you can't beat the classic Final Fight stuff. You know, like grabbing trash cans and other things to beat up the baddies with. I mean, come on, who doesn't love to toss goons around and use a zipline kick to the face? Classic. One of my favorite things to do in this game is to blind enemies using the Batarang on the lights. Talk about a bright idea, Ubisoft. Like with many past games, this one features cheats too, which are used to unlock the costumes and upgrades for the game. Just keep in mind, if you use the cheats, the game will freeze about 60% of the time. This sadly creates a game-breaking glitch and happens on all known versions of the game. It's also a major buzzkill because you want to put the cheats in so you can use the costumes, because unlocking the costumes is a pain in the neck. Still, when you get right down to it, Rise of Sinzu just doesn't have the greatest lasting appeal. Only fun I ever really had playing this game was on easy, and even in this mode, the AI is horribly broken. Not as bad as, say, normal or on the Dark Knight difficulties, but it's still pretty bad. If there was a level select, then a lot of my complaints would have been null and void because I could have replayed my favorite levels, but no. In conclusion, back when this game was released in 2003, many critics said it was a rental, and you know what? Sadly, I have to agree with them. Sure, it's an interesting Batman beat-em-up, but there are both better games in this genre and better Batman games for you to play too. So your time and money is best spent elsewhere, unless you're a die-hard collector or a Batman fan that just has to have this game in your collection. Because if you can look past all the really annoying grievances of this game, you may actually find some enjoyment from some of the levels and characters you get to play as. Combat is really easy to pick up and play, and while it does get repetitive, sometimes the game still is really fun. The tunes are really catchy, and fans of the animated series will always walk away with something good about this game. Also, if you've played it before, then you have the whole nostalgia factor. Still, I'm gonna leave this game's verdict up to you guys and gals to decide on. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thus ends another Retro Mondays. Join me next time as we conclude Batman Month with this game, Chaos in Gotham. Well, until next time, gamers, God bless and happy gaming. Thanks so much for watching, and until we meet again, I'll be seeing you.